kind of struggle through the education system, holding on to their creativity as tight as they can, and then they get out the other end and go, now I'm a hacker, yeah, that kind of thing. Okay, that's good. Right, we've got the problem. How are we going to solve it? So, when I was 17, I went to college in Cambridge with a couple of the guys down here, and there was a robotics group at my college, and there aren't many of those in the UK at that sort of age. And that was really quite an interesting thing. And this robotics group entered this thing called FIRST in the US, which is a robotics competition. And we flew a long way to New York to play this game with a robot that we built. A robot that we built in 6 weeks. A robot that we built in 6 weeks during our exams. Yeah, enough said. And first give you 6 weeks to build your robot. And it just so happens that their 6 weeks overlap with the A-level exams in the UK. And that's really a problem, okay. And that costs quite a lot of money. There were probably about 20 of us in total who went across to New York, and taking 20 people to New York and back, and putting them in a hotel and feeding them, and so on and so on and so on, cost quite a lot of money. And that was we had to raise that, through the sort of standard student raising mechanisms, like parents and sort of random things, like barbecues or whatever. And so that was difficult. And to make it even more challenging, FIRST has a $6,000 entry fee, which isn't small. But in the US, things are quite different there, it seems, because they get a lot of corporate sponsorship and stuff like that. They've got like 2,000 teams or something, which is remarkable. It is an amazing competition. But after all that, we went over there with our crappy robot. It wasn't so crappy when we left. It had this massive sort of forklift arrangement on the front of it, but we had to take it off because it was too heavy. So... but despite all of these problems, the group of us who went had an amazing time. The whole event was like a sporting event, an American sporting event, so it was massively hyped and so on. There are cheerleaders at a robotics event. And this was something, I'm from the UK, this isn't the sort of thing you normally see. It's very strange, but also excellent. And this really changed my ideas about what I wanted to do in my future. I was going to do a maths degree, and I did an electronic engineering degree, and I think that is pretty much as a result of doing this competition. So Jeff and Justin here and I went to Southampton Uni together, and the text in black, you can't read it. And we did the same kind of thing with a group of 17-year-olds and took them to Toronto in Canada, and that's Canada, by the way, and flew a similar number of miles with them and had to do the same sort of fundraising experience and things. And that probably cost something like £25,000, something like that for a group of 20 people, something of that magnitude. And that's quite a lot of money to have to raise for a single event that's going to last 6 weeks, that's over your exams. So that was kind of okay, but start to think, can we do better? Can we solve this in some way? And I think the answer is yes. So we decided that we were going to have our own robotics competition here, and it was going to have to be cheap, and the robots would have to be autonomous. In first, they're just remote control, and we'd need more time for building robots so that it was less vulnerable to sort of random events in the education regime. And it was at this point that Steve here got involved, and Steve and I really sort of started the group up with Howard Buck, who's not here unfortunately, and got this group going at the University of Southampton again. And what we knew was that we need some kind of source of money, and that seemed like a big problem. But then Steve got involved and talked to some people in a nice way, and then Motorola Foundation sort of came up to us almost out of the blue, I think, and they said, "Hi, we'd like to fund something that's a bit like FIRST in the UK." Yes, excellent. Okay, please give us your money. Yep, they got involved, and over the last few years, we've developed a couple more sponsors. Obviously, the University of Southampton was kind of giving us resources and things, but they've also funded a couple of internships now and things like that. And Bitbox have given us some sort of free hardware assembly and things like that. And just in case I say sixth formers beyond this point, they're 16 to 18-year-olds. I'm not sure if they're entirely unique to the UK, but it just means students in education who are between 16 and 18 years old, really. Okay, so this is some of our group, probably most of it, minus a couple of people. And these people, plus or minus two, are all university students, be it PhD students or undergrad students. And this entire project is run by students. And we ran our competition in 2008, yes, 2008. That was quite good. And we've run them every year since then. So we're 4 years in now, and we have 18 teams, which are made up of 151 sixth formers, and we do all of this for less than the amount of money it costs to take one team to New York for a single week. And I think we do something that's much more interesting as well, because our robots are autonomous. So now, today, we have, can I wander around? No. Yeah, we have that's Southampton down there, that's where we're sort of primarily based and started. We've now got teams from London, from Cambridge, there's a team from near Leeds, and we've got a branch starting up at Bristol University. And this is really big for us. This means that we're getting more university students who are the people who are actually volunteering to do work and run this thing involved. And we're really looking to expand to other universities. And as people are leaving university, some of them are staying involved and in contact and things like that. So we're growing. And if you'd like to get involved with helping us grow, that would be awesome. And the other interesting thing about this year is that we've got a team from Grenoble in France, and so we're sort of kind of growing into some other countries as well, very slowly at the moment. Okay, so enough stuff about why and what we are. I'm going to tell you about the games that the robots play. So at the beginning of the academic year in sort of September time, we we set the students a task, and that task so far has always been played in a 8 by 8 metre arena. That's that big black square. And this year, our game is called Tin Can Rally. We have another shorter wall on the inside to make this track around the outside. 4 robots play at once. Again, they're all autonomous robots. There's no remote control. Essentially, you press start on them, and then the game plays for 3 minutes, and no one can interfere with them unless, one's eating a person or something like that. Around the arena in that track, we've got a load of baked bean tins painted red. Why they're red will come apparent in a minute. And the idea is that the robots can pick those up and carry them around. And every time the robot passes a corner of the arena, it gets a point. Every time it passes a corner whilst carrying a baked bean tin, it gets an extra point. So the more baked bean tins it's carrying, the more points it gets. The faster it goes round, the more points it gets. The more corners it passes, the more points it gets. And to make things just a little bit more interesting, we have this short detour. And on this bird's eye view, it looks like you might want to take that route, but it's actually a ramp. And on top of that ramp is a magic baked bean tin, which doubles your points. So the idea of this game is that you can be really rubbish and still gain some points. You get 1 point if you move. Because the students are actually building their own robot chassis. They're building, they're attaching wheels to motors and things and building the body of the robot as well. So having a robot that moves is an achievement, and so we give points for that. But there are also, there are a couple of routes, different strategies you could take with this game, which kind of hopefully makes it a bit more interesting. Ah, yes, and there's a little black line on the ground which you can use to determine when you're coming up to the ramp. So, we give teams hardware in the form of an electronic kit that we've designed. We give them software, which we've also, we've taken from free software sources, and we've written our own as well and mixed those together. And most importantly, though, we give the teams guidance. We call it mentoring. And if you think back to when you were 17, or try and think forwards to when you're 17, approaching a project which is 6 months long and is kind of quite nebulous and open is quite a scary thing. It's quite difficult. But also, it's a project in which you're asked to be creative with something that's not necessarily something you thought you could be creative with. And so you're probably a little bit scared of that as well. So a lot of our teams get a university student going to them every week to sort of give them guidance. And generally it sort of turns into, them being kicked into actually doing things and stuff like that. But the guidance is really important, making sure that all of the teams actually know what's going on and kind of have an idea of where they're going. That's probably the most important thing. It's more important than the hardware, it's more important than the software. Giving the teams guidance and making sure that they know what they're doing is really important. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about our kit now. So we kind of, in general, had 2 versions of kit. The one that we first shipped and sort of kind of shipped in various modified forms for the last 3 years ran on these things, which many of you might have seen, the NSLU2 Linksys boxes. And they just have an ARM chip in, quite a slow one. They don't have much RAM, something like 16 meg or something. And this is what all the students' code is running on. And then we gave them this other hardware that we designed that plugs into that. I won't go into what those are because I'm going into what this new kit is in a minute. But we kind of gave that to them. By the way, if you're working with people, never give them electronics that isn't in a case.